Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This is Mr. Idarola here with our second presentation tutorial on how to complete reading strategies. This one is how to complete a before reading or pre-reading strategy using the before reading strategies transfer chart. The title sounds longer and more complicated than the actual activity, but let's take a look at why we do this, right? Why I teach reading and social studies. I won't beat you up with this slide because I know we read it for Vocabulary Notebook. But again, you have to read in this class. It's important to do it. It's a necessary activity for civilized human beings. Reading skills improve more than just academic performance. It's a basic life skill. You have to be a good reader. It's important. Good reading skills improve your memory and concentration. How about that? Right? Concentration. Therefore, they help you become a critical thinker. Make good life decisions, resolve issues, make good personal choices. Good reading skills make you more confident and self reliant. When you're a good reader, when you don't depend upon others to read for you or do these things for you, you feel more confident, you feel more independent, you feel better. Let's face it, right? You control things, and that's always important that you control things. And that's what we're going for here. Okay, so hey, let's move into it. Again, reading skills breakdown. There's people, it isn't that you can't read, it's that no one's taught you the skills. Because, like everything else in life, there's a strategy or a process you follow when you read well. It's an attack strategy, especially with nonfiction text. I think fiction could be a little difficult sometimes. There's a lot of things that are symbolic in the reading. Nonfiction, not so much so. It's more straightforward. And that's why, even if you're a poor reader, reading nonfiction is easier. We're going to see, especially going to see why with the before reading activity. But we attacked vocabulary. We did that last time. So you should recognize and understand the words you read now. Now we're going after the organization. How is the text organized? When you understand the organization of text, it makes it easier to read. So keep that in mind. These last two we're going to look at next, and I'll try to do this with you. I want to show you how I read. We're going to take a look at it, and I'm going to use the strategies that we're going to discuss when it comes to looking at the structure of paragraphs, looking at the topics of each paragraph and what's important in right? We're going to take a look at what to keep, what you want to know in each paragraph. We'll talk about this next. We'll also attack the substance or essence of the reading. What are you getting out of it? What's the overall point? Is there a deeper meaning, just its literal meaning? But today, just the organization of the text. That's all we're looking at. Before you read. It's also known as a pre-read. Maybe you've done something like this before. If not, will be something new to you. It's very regimented. It's very structured. We're going to start by looking at the title of the lesson, the headings, topics, and the subheadings or subtopics, and the sections to get an idea about the structure of the reading, its organization in general. We're going to summarize what this tells you about the reading. Next, we're going to make predictions about the reading after skimming the title, chapter headings, and illustrations. Finally, we're going to ask questions about what you want answered while reading. We'll come up with some of our own questions, right? This will help us determine the purpose and direction of the reading and what subjects they'll be important in the text. How the writer organized things. So we should be able to walk away from a pre-read being able to do all these things. Let's get to it. Let's take a look at it, right? Number 1, directions. Scan. Do not read. Scan the pages. Use the space provided to identify all the topic titles, topics, and subtopics in the lesson. Identify one caption that stands out in this lesson. A caption is any picture or sidebar that supports the reading. Think of it like decorations on a tree. Right? You have a tree, you have the roots and the branches come off, and then the branches break up into smaller branches. And at the end, you have these wonderful little decorations on them. And that's kind of like your captions, like the pictures above the title on page 60. On page 61, there's a thinking like historian thing about analyzing primary sources. There's also a picture there analyzing visuals that John White drew of Native Americans. On 62, you have the one of the landing at Jamestown. And on 63, you got a picture of Pocahontas. Those are all captions. Good thing to pay attention to. They kind of, not only do they decorate a tree, when you think of them as a Christmas tree, they decorate the reading. So it's something to keep in mind. The title is the title of the lesson. It's the white bolded words in the textbook. We're at Roanoke and Jamestown. If you look at the top of page 60, they're right there under lesson 1. in yellow. It says Roanoke and Jamestown. Excuse me. There you go. The topics are always larger red bolded titles in the text. If you look in the text now, page 60 and 61, you'll see them. The Mystery of Roanoke and Success at Jamestown, that's them. The subtopics are always the smaller red bolded titles in the text. If I turn to page 62, I got 3 of those. Virginia Company, Jamestown survives, more settlers come to Virginia. There they are. Captions are the pictures, graphics, charts, or sidebars that contain information related to the text. I mentioned this earlier. So any of those captions are fair game. So why are they important? Let's take a look. It says scan, do not read, but scan pages 60 to 63. Right? I'm looking for the topic titles, topics, subtopics in a lesson. I'm also looking for one caption. Altogether, I should have 7 things when I'm done. So how am I doing this? I'm going back to page 60. And the first thing I see is the title, Roanoke and Jamestown, again in bolded white. So I know this whole thing's going to be about Roanoke and Jamestown, right? First topic is the Mystery of Roanoke. Done. Second topic is Success at Jamestown. Done. Now, that's it for my topics. Okay, so and just looking at this, I can see there's a Mystery at Roanoke and Success at Jamestown. So Roanoke doesn't sound good to me. Just from looking at this, I'm doing something important here. Okay, Success at Jamestown, that sounds good. I'm going to turn to pages 62 and 63, and I have 3 subtopics. The Virginia Company, Jamestown survives, more settlers come to Virginia. Please note, I did not read it. I just scanned it. There's my titles. I didn't read any of the paragraphs in between. Done. Okay, one more thing. I love this picture on page 62 of Jamestown colonists building a fort for protection. But if you don't like it, I just like that picture. It's cool. That's really, when you pick one, pick the one you think is cool. Hey, if you think Pocahontas dressed up in English clothes is cool, go for it. If you think the Native American on page 61 is cool, go for it. I mean, it's really up to you. Okay, as long as you note the page number and you give me a description of the actual caption, you're done. And this is finished. There was only 7. I said there were 7. I'm finished. So that's it for the scan. That's pretty easy stuff, right? Let's take a look at B. It says, use the space below to summarize what this lesson is about in one sentence using only the title, topics, and subtopics above. Watch what I do here. It's really interesting. I'm making a sentence. This lesson is about the Mystery of Roanoke and the establishment and success of Jamestown, the Virginia Company, Jamestown survival, and the arrival of more settlers to Virginia. That's what it's all about. Where did I get all these bolded red things? I just plugged in the topics, subtopics from part A, and I looked up at part A, and I made up a summary of it. This is an easy and accurate way to summarize the reading without actually reading the entire passage. Sometimes you get almost everything you need to know, not in my class, but in other classes, just looking at titles, topics, and subtopics. At least you get a good idea what it's about. You kind of go in knowing the structure. It's kind of like when you're on a train, you know where the railroad tracks are going. You know where they all go. So you can only go where those railroad tracks go. And you're on the train and you're on them. So you have an idea of the destination of all this just by knowing this. So that's why we do the summary. It provides that to you. How do we think deeper about the text? Well, now we're getting into C. It says make a prediction about what is important in this lesson. And I just said, I kind of said as I was going along, while Roanoke will be a failure as an early colony, Jamestown will be a great success and more English settlers will arrive in North America. That makes sense, right? Tip, you are not great on the accuracy of your prediction. This is just a way to show me you're thinking about using the text. This is exercise. That could be completely correct or it can be completely wrong. You could tell me you thought Roanoke was, because it was a mystery, you thought it was a mystery why it succeeded. And you could tell me Jamestown's success was kind of, they were kind of being maybe a little sarcastic there and it really failed. I mean, if you said that here, I couldn't mark it wrong. I'm just letting you know. But if you talked about stuff from the titles, topics, and subtopics in your prediction and you made a prediction, you're done. So don't feel like you're being graded on the prediction being correct. You're not. You're just making a prediction. D requires you to create 2 open-ended questions that relate to this chapter. This is a little tougher, but I gave you a fallback. I gave you a way to fix this. These are sentence starters. Use these sentence starters. Would you tell me more about? Could you help me understand? How can you explain? What does blank make you think about? What would happen if? What would happen if more settlers come to Virginia? What does Virginia Company make you think about? How can you explain success at Jamestown? How can you explain the mystery of Roanoke? Could you help me understand the mystery of Roanoke? Could you help me understand why more settlers came to Virginia? Could you tell me more about Jamestown survival? Now, I just used a couple of them. But notice what I did. I just plugged in one of the topics and subtopics at the end. Use one of these sentences as a starter and finish the sentence with one of the topics or subtopics in part A. Hoorah. Not so tough. Anyone can do it. These are the two I created. How can we explain the mystery of Roanoke Colony? What would have happened if Jamestown Colony? I actually reversed it here. I did something weird. I reversed it. I'll explain it. This was a topic, the mystery of Roanoke. I just plugged it in there into the sentence so it made sense. And this was, I reversed the success of Jamestown and considered what would happen if Jamestown failed. That's all I did here. Okay, so if any of this confuses you, just keep in mind that's all I did. Now, if I've gone too fast through any of this, pause the video and go back and look. That's the beauty of the video. I mean, I'm going to go over this in class, just as I'm going over it now. But you can use this video tutorial to help you out. Stop it, watch it from the beginning, watch it from the middle, pause it where you need to, and just pay attention to what's being done. The skill never changes. The content will, but the skill never changes. Okay, some tips. And this is the end of this presentation. Complete the pre-read in accordance with the pre-reading document. Just follow along. Start at A, go to D. Again, never skip a step in the process. It defeats the point of completing the pre-read. Notice how much B, C, and D are dependent upon A. Once you complete A, you're using what you completed in A to complete sections B, C, and D. Make sure you do that. Okay? It's just like exercise again. You exercise, you practice, and then you play. Hey, that's it. We're at the end of this presentation. Thank you very much. The next time we will discuss reading, we will be looking at how to read, how to do a deep read, how to read appropriately, how to read nonfiction text appropriately. So with that, have a nice day.